Okay, last section, and it's a big one. So we will start off with defining a very key term that I think you're gonna hear quite a lot these next few weeks. It's going to carry over to multiple chapters, and that's self-esteem. All right, when you think of self-esteem, all right, try to define that on your own here for a second, and then I'll give you my definition. Okay, a lot of you guys are probably thinking something that deals with self-confidence, how you feel about yourself, and those aren't wrong at all. I like to add the feeling of self-worth. Okay, the example that I often give is if you had a price tag, all right, and you pasted it on your chest, what would that price tag say? Okay, people who put priceless or $1 billion, that's someone who's obviously riding a very high self-esteem right now. But then you got to appreciate that there's going to be individuals out there, especially guys your age and girls, who would put 5 cents or zero, okay, who are struggling with something and as indicated by their low self-esteem. All right, lots of things impact a person's self-esteem, and of all of these things, there is one that still seems to um, top all others. The number one impact on teen self-esteem. Go ahead, try to guess. A lot of people guess school performance. All right, a lot of people will say how you look to others, and that's really, really close. It's body image. All right, and the way that your physical appearance comes off. And I can only imagine how it is for your generation. My generation did not have social media to market myself in the way that it does. But it's obviously the case when body image is such an impact on a person's self-esteem. We can often go to great lengths to, like we talked about before, getting that approval. And um, who gets approval the most? Well, people who get approval the most have a certain body image and look a certain way. Your social influencers, your actors, your actresses, all right? And if we can't make our bodies look like those influencers, it decreases our self-esteem. And what can be directly related to low self-esteem and poor body image perception is eating disorders. All right, and I'm glad that I have the opportunity to share this with you guys because it's not just a category of psychological diseases that affect females, and I think we'll start right off the bat with anorexia. Okay, anorexia is excessive weight loss due to dieting, yet they still feel fat, which can often lead to starvation, okay, excessive exercise, all right, for example, and sadly, they might try to hit a certain weight, but then still not be satisfied, still not be happy, and it can send them down this spiral, all right, that can possibly be fatal. Take a look here. It is not just in females. I found this story about a year ago. This is Mike Margema, a Seattle catcher, and he shares his story of his battle with eating disorders. He says, I'll share the YouTube link with you. It's a nice little interview with him about his life. He became obsessed with his body image, and it led to a multitude of eating disorders, not just anorexia, but also binging and purging, which we'll talk about in a little bit. He's quoted as saying, I just started restricting my diet, overworking. I put a stationary bike in the shower and ride until I would pass out or even throw up. That's how obsessed he was. He does have a diagnosed OCD also. How obsessed he was with getting in shape, excelling at his level, and you look at his physique and it doesn't jump out to you as anorexic, all right, as this picture does here. But again, a pretty fascinating story I think you guys will find interesting. All right. The second one is bulimia. All right, now bulimia nervosa does have a physical appearance to it also. Not maybe not like anorexics. So anorexics you can spot a little easier. All right, not 100%, but their body type might give certain indicators away. But bulimics will overeat to satisfy that hunger urge. All right, but then immediately feel guilt and purge. Okay, so that purging could come in the form of vomiting. All right, that's the more stereotypical version, but then also there's the use of laxatives to go to, make them go to the bathroom, over exercise, all right, because of that guilt of putting all those calories in the body, all right. Bulimics don't have the body types as anorexics all the time. There are some subtle signs to bulimics. You could look at sores, all right, at the where the upper and lower lips meet from the mouth opening during vomiting. The acid from the vomit could affect the mouth, the gums, the teeth, for example. And then obviously you look at some behavioral patterns of excusing themselves shortly after eating, larger amounts of food. Okay, would be a possible sign. And then there's binge eating. Okay, now binge eating is basically like half of bulimia without the purging. So it's significant overeating followed by guilt, but then there's no laxative use or no exercise, and that of course can lead to a continued decline in self-esteem because binge eating often brings about this obesity. All right, now obesity is a hot topic. It was definitely a hot topic in the Obama administration because one of Michelle Obama's initiatives was to have the youth be in their best shape, best physical condition, stressing exercise at young ages. The World Health Organization, you might have heard that organization as of late. They're pretty mentionable right now with the virus, but the World Health Organization defines obesity as having a body mass index of a 30 or more. And I want to share this with you guys. This is how you can calculate your body mass index. Go ahead and take a look at that formula there. You take your weight in pounds, multiply it by 0.45, and then you divide that by your height converted to inches, divided by 39.4 squared. All right, that's your denominator. Divide all that with your height. Okay, so follow that, with your weight times 0.45. And I would be safe to say that most of you guys are gonna be just fine, especially at the adolescent level. As you start to get into my level, my ages, your BMIs can increase more rapidly as metabolism changes, etc. You can see this chart of self-reported obesity among U.S. adults. I know it's a bit older, but you can see there's a bit of a trend. And if you've ever visited some of these states, you might agree. Like, for example, Colorado. I'm a big Colorado fan, and Colorado's very active. Everyone is active in Colorado, so I'm not surprised to see that the self-reported obesity scores are lower in the West Coast. Weather could play an impact. All right, food and food type and choices of food, fried foods in the South, etc. You could form your own opinions here, but anyway, just an interesting graph I thought I'd show you. And then there's this. All right, so once you've got your BMI calculated, here is where it is sort of categorized, if you will. And honestly, you might not even need to do the formula, but I am 5'11". All right, right there. We'll say I'm 6 foot. Why not? I'm 6 foot and I hover around 200 pounds. So, yep, Coach Klein, unfortunately, would rank as overweight. All right. I would say at my absolute best, I've gotten myself down to about 185. During soccer season, I'm much more active. I don't eat as much, but it's harder than a lot of people think. And so you got to use this as a guide. All right. Notice that it does say for adults up here. This is simply meant to be a guide, and it's not 100% accurate. For example, a bodybuilder or a rugby player can be very heavy for their height and have a high body mass index. Okay, but then on the other end of the spectrum, a very healthy runner, okay, a long distance runner can appear to be underweight for their height compared to the chart, but again, they'd be in tip-top shape. All right, so anyway, there is how body mass index and obesity seem to be defined in our society. One other eating disorder I thought I'd share with you real fast that doesn't get a whole lot of attention in the books, but it gets a lot of attention in the media is pica. All right, now pica is the frequent ingestion of non-food items. All right, now a lot of us went through this phase when we were little. Okay, it's an oral phase. That means we become obsessed with putting things in our mouth. We put everything in our mouth we come in contact with when we're a toddler, even as an infant. Okay, and then we grow out of it. As you can see in that top picture, We grow out of it because we learn with trial and error. Yep, that tastes good. Nope, that does not taste good. Only does it seem to resurface as an adult in certain individuals. Psychologists sometimes think it's linked with some sort of reward center in our body and brain, much like a sexual or impulse disorder. So a pretty fascinating group of individuals here with an addiction to non-food items. So you can have some fun looking at my strange addiction videos. I can share a couple with you if you want. There's examples of people who eat toilet paper, who will crunch, sand in between their teeth, drink gasoline, as you see there, and there's even a story of a woman who drinks her own urine. So there you go. Uh, you're welcome for sharing all that with you. Okay, on to our final topic, a much tougher, darker topic that unfortunately has impacted our communities too much in the past 20 years. All right, and that's teen aggression and teen violence. What am I talking about? I'm talking about things like on a lighter level, even though it's not always interpreted as light, is bullying and teasing and mocking. That picture on the right there is a pretty good documentary of mostly junior high, middle school bullying. It's, as you can see, it's called Bully. If you have accessibility to this, I encourage you to give it a look. It's pretty eye-opening. I know that DeSmet does have its cases of this, and so we're obviously not exempt from it by any means. Okay, on larger scales, we've got self-inflicted violence that still is considered, and then what I want to spend a majority of time talking about with you guys is large-scale violent acts, which, like I said, has affected our communities way too much since the late 90s with the incident at Columbine. We'll talk about that also. What seems to be the profile of many violent teens, mass shooters, or both would be the following here. All right, you can see they typically are from lower socioeconomic households, are lower achieving, lower IQ individuals. The household seems to be broken, whether it's a divorce or a separation. An absent father figure leads to more instances of kids acting out or in violent ways. The TV, all right, video games is not a huge supported argument all the time. Some people do believe that violent video games cause violence, but that's hard to prove on a consistent basis. But there are some possible connections, all right, as an ingredient. A lot of school shooters seem to have first-person shooter gaming histories, all right, but it doesn't seem to be a direct cause and effect. And then lastly are kids who are mocked, who are teased, who are ostracized in some way as inferior to the quote-unquote more popular groups, all right? Now, you can't say teen aggression or teen violence without saying things like Columbine. Now, I know you guys weren't born yet, but this was the incident that's basically started the big discussion, all right? These two boys right here, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, walked into their school. They were your age, all right, back in 1999, and by the end of the incident, ended up killing 13 individuals, 12 students and a teacher's awful day. Changed the course of history and how we allow people into large buildings, especially schools. Okay, so the whole idea that we have intruder drills and things like that are because of these individuals here. Okay, I'm sorry if I'm covering this information fast. We're running out of time. But this was one example that I thought I would share with you guys. This last picture here, all right, might not be real, but they did turn the guns on themselves in the end, which is unfortunate because we can't profile them, all right, now that they're no longer with us. All right, then there is, of course, the Stoneman Douglas incident with Nicholas Cruz. All right, again, another mass shooting that was much more recent, so hopefully this one is better accessible in your memory, all right, because this is the one that I'd like to talk to you guys about more specifically. All right, so these three questions here, all right, I'm going to prompt you, and I'd love to hear your opinions on these. All right, I hope that you'll provide me with honest answers. Nobody will be penalized for anything wrong here. Would love to hear your thoughts on these, and that's how we will close out our discussion of lifespan development. Good job, guys. Wait to hear from me again for more work on how we'll close this.